Last year, Yehuda Kurtzer from the Shalom Hartman Institute interviewed Rabbi David Wolpe for a podcast episode entitled The Art of the Sermon. And at one point, Rabbi Wolpe offered a definition of what an effective drasha is supposed to do. And this is what he said. A drash is supposed to use an example that you understand to change your orientation about something important and give you a different way to think about it. Now, I recognize that went by very quickly, so I just want to break down this formula into 3 parts because it contains a really profound blueprint for crafting effective drashos, and the truth is, you can use this to craft any transformative presentation. Once you understand its structure and its 3 simple moving parts, you'll possess the magic formula for crafting really transformative drashas and presentations yourself. So let's hear it again. A drash is supposed to use an example that you understand to change your orientation about something important and give you a different way to think about it. Now, I could leave it at that, but I recently came across an incredible example of this in action, not from a congregational leader, but by a podcast host and TEDx speaker named Mel Robbins. Mel's written a bunch of best-selling books, and she's got a very straightforward, down-to-earth way of communicating that makes her extremely popular and a really compelling speaker to listen to. I was listening to an episode of her podcast a while back, and she masterfully executed this 3-step blueprint that we've been discussing. Use an example that they'll understand to change their orientation about something important and give them a different way to think about it. She checked all 3 boxes with flying colors, like a champ. And I wanted to share it with you because I want you to be able to see it in action when this is done right and take a lesson from it and apply it to your own speaking. So even though Mel Robbins is huge, her TEDx talk alone has been viewed 33.3 million times. And she's basically a celebrity. And I'm not, or at least not yet. I somehow summoned up the courage to reach out, and I asked her, could I replay the short clip of your podcast for my audience where you use this great metaphor to make a really transformative point? And she said yes. So here it is. Podcast host, author, TEDx motivational speaker, and former lawyer, Mel Robbins, demonstrating the 3-step blueprint for successful and transformative presentations. Now, just one more thing before I play it. I want you to pay attention to how Mel doesn't make the audience wait to find out what they'll get out of listening to her speak. Right out of the starting gate, she communicates up front what transformation she's aiming to help her audience achieve, how to create a better life for yourself, and how to become a happier person. Okay, enough of me talking. Here it is.
All right, everybody. Get ready, because this is one of the most important aspects of creating a better life and of being a happier person. We spend so much time focusing on what we need to do, what we need to add in, what we need to change. And have you stopped to consider that the best place to make a change is by letting go of things, of projects, of thinking patterns, of relationships that no longer serve you? And the big question is how? How do you know when it's time? And I have got not only a fantastic visual metaphor to help you understand this concept, but I also have a really interesting way to approach this.
So the first step is to use an example. And here's the most important part that people can relate to and understand. Now listen to the example that Mel uses. It's an example that everyone understands. The fall leaves changing colors.
And so let's talk about the metaphor of what happens to a tree when the fall season hits. And in researching this for you, because, it's one thing to just kind of tell you a metaphor. It's another thing to really understand it and explain it. This was fascinating. I know we learned about chlorophyll and fall and the life cycle of a tree in elementary school, but I had forgotten most of this stuff. So check this out. The reason why a tree has leaves is because the tree needs energy to survive. It needs energy to grow. And the leaves have a very particular purpose. The leaves are there to take the sunlight and convert it to energy so that the tree can grow. And in exchange, the tree gives a ton of water back to these leaves. I mean, this process of the leaves sprouting and the leaves growing and the leaves taking its surface area and converting the sun into energy so the tree can go from a tiny little acorn to a mighty oak, that is a lot of energy. And there's this reciprocal nature to the relationship that a tree has to its leaves, because the tree has to bring in tons of water in order to fuel this energy exchange. And here's the reason why leaves fall off a tree. In the middle of winter, at least here in the United States, when the ground is frozen and snowpack is on top, there is no water for the tree. And if those leaves with their big flat surface were to stay on that tree through winter, the leaves would kill the tree. It would suck the tree dry of all the water that it needs. An interesting thing about fall is that, we look at the leaves turning, and we look at the leaves dropping gently and falling down to the ground as this beautiful thing that happens. This natural thing that happens. It's so lovely. It's just wonderful. Isn't this delightful? Do you want to know that this is almost like a violent act? That the trees are pushing those leaves off its branches. The tree is basically going, yo, if you are hanging around on my branches through the wintertime, you are going to suck me dry of all my energy. I am going to die if you don't get off my freaking branches. The tree literally pushes them, ejects them, kicks them out of their life. Why? Because there is no reciprocal energy exchange that can happen during the winter. The tree has to conserve its energy to survive. And after the winter season, once those leaves are gone and the tree can conserve its energy instead of giving it all to that leaf while killing itself.
Even if you use as an example something that people are familiar with, if it's trivial or insignificant, nobody's going to care. So, rule number 2 is that your subject must be about something important. How many of us are weighed down and handicapped or even paralyzed from moving forward because we're holding on to relationships or grudges or thought patterns that don't serve us anymore? So that's obviously a really important subject that's going to resonate with all sorts of audiences everywhere. Her audience is going to be invested in listening to hear what she has to say on the subject. They're keyed in, hoping that whatever she's going to tell them is going to improve their lives for the better in an area that's currently holding them back.
I bet you got areas of your life where you're giving all your energy into a relationship or into your work or into some stupid thinking pattern that you've been doing for years that makes you feel bad. You put all your energy in one direction. You get nothing in return. That's what fall is for a tree. The fall season for a tree is, thank you very much for spring and summer. You were amazing. This relationship between the leaf and the tree, this was reciprocal. You got energy from me. I got energy from you. Bada bing, bada boom. And then all of a sudden, boom. This is a one-way thing. And if I hold on to these leaves, I'm going to die. I'm going to die.
Which brings us to the last principle, which is your drasha has to change your audience's orientation and give them a different way to think about something. Because at the end of the day, that's what we're trying to achieve with our speaking. You're aiming for a transformation. You want to take your audience from point A to point B in a positive direction. By causing a shift in their perspective with your words, you're trying to give them a new, better way to view something than the way they're currently seeing it.
And I'm bringing that metaphor and that visual and that documented point of view, that this isn't just some lovely thing where the leaves, change colors and it's so beautiful and now we all drink a pumpkin spice latte. That's not what this is. This is a tree's survival. This is about energy. This is about the fact that in order to grow, in order to be strong, to be the best you got to surround yourself with relationships and work and projects and friendships and habits where there is an equal reciprocal exchange that you give and you get in return. And that's where we're going to start when it comes to how I want you to think about this concept of letting go.
Brilliant. And brilliantly executed, and something that's going to stick in people's minds every time they see the leaves changing colors. So there you have it. It's the recipe or the blueprint for a perfect drasha. A drush is supposed to use an example that you understand to change your orientation about something important and give you a different way to think about it. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the subject. You can always email me at anytime at daniel@maggidmethod.com, maggidmethod.com. And if you want some help with crafting or delivering your own transformative sermons or presentations, maybe you have something big coming up where you have to speak and hit a home run, you can always reach me at daniel@maggidmethod.com. And if I can, I'd love to help you. That's it for me this time. Speak soon.